Next tonight, the artist trying to give a voice to black teenage boys. Rufai set up the S.M.I.L.E-ing Boys Project in response to the rise in youth knife crime. Now, he hopes to challenge the often negative perception of young black men as either a perpetrator or victim of violence. His project also addresses the mental health needs of those young people, something that often gets ignored. Well, earlier I spoke to Kay and asked him what inspired him to do this.
Thank you so much, Claudia. I mean, for me, being a black man and realizing that at the age of 37, I realized that, what I needed at a 13-year-old version of myself is what is still currently missing. So realizing that there's been a spike in serious youth violence in the last year and a half, a majority of the discourse on a political level and also on a social level has not really been about, the public health approach and the preventative measures. It's more about increased criminalization and the deployment of more stop and searches in black and minority ethnic communities. I realized that the onus was upon myself as an artist to create something that specifically speaks to what it is that I know I needed when I was 13 years old. So that's what kind of empowered me to create the project in the first place.
So you have black boys just smiling. What message?
Absolutely.
What message were you trying to send with such a simple thing?
Thank you so much. I mean, it is absolutely such a simple thing. It delivers exactly what it says in the tin. For me, what I wanted to do was on two fronts. Firstly, I wanted to challenge the ideas of the imaginations of the black boy experience from a perspective of the black boy themselves, to allow them to reimagine a different version of themselves that they perhaps do not have the permission to always experience based on a lot of different reasons, because of patriarchy, because of racism, and also because of the socialization of black boys in a society that we live in. The second part was also to challenge the society on a larger scale to kind of reimagine the visuals that I'm presenting to them. Why is this few and far between, this imagery of black boys smiling in their rambunctiousness, in their cheekiness, in their innocence? Why is this so rare in our society, and why is this not commonplace? So for me, those are the two main things I wanted to use this visual imagery to challenge in our society.
And you also wanted to talk, when you're talking about that reimagining and changing the narrative, looking at mental health, the mental health impact on young black boys. Just tell us a bit about that.
Ultimately, when we look at the statistics, there is overwhelming evidence to suggest the disproportionality of the impacts of mental health on black boys and black people in general. When we look at the impacts of exclusion rates on black boys, which is 4 times more than their white counterparts, and how this directly impacts the ways in which they are more likely to register a lot of mental health disorders, the impact of young black boys when they get excluded from school into people referral units, and ultimately the disproportionality of black boys in the criminal justice system. All these things are directly linked to the lack of mental health provisions that black boys are exposed to or have access to at a very young age. So for me, this project was specifically about trying to change and challenge that particular trajectory that we already are looking at for the outcomes of black boys in the future.
And Kay, you as a 13-year-old, how would you have reacted to seeing this project?
I would have been in dreamland. Dreamland, not just because, I have the opportunity to sit with other black boys and talk about what our experiences are like, but dreamland because there comes somebody that looks like me, that comes from similar backgrounds than me, and is giving me permission or allowing me to reimagine what aesthetically a black man can be when I think about success, to think about what a black man can be when I think about the ability to express themselves in complete authenticity. Those are things that as a 13-year-old, I did not have the license or examples of other black men that deviated from the stereotypical narrative. So here comes another black man who allows me to reimagine a counter-stereotypical imagination of myself. And for me, as a 13-year-old, that would have blown my mind.
Well, Kay, in the times we are living in, it's so lovely to see such a wonderful, positive project. Really good talking to you.
Thank you so much, Claudia, for having me.